The sand tasted like iron and defeat. Ruvik's body carved a trench through the rust-colored dunes as he tumbled from the sky, his wings useless, his strength gone. The impact should have killed him. Perhaps that would have been Kinder. Above, the council ship grew smaller, a dark spot against the amber clouds. They had thrown him down like garbage. No ceremony, no final words, just the cold efficiency of exile. Ruvik lay still, feeling the hot sand burn against his bronze scales. Every breath sent pain through his cracked ribs. He was 20 cycles old. Among dragons, barely more than a child. Yet old enough to be judged, old enough to be condemned. The memory played again in his mind, as it had every day since the hunt. The small creatures huddled in their burrow, the parent covering the young with its own body. Ruvik had been supposed to burn them all. His first kill, his passage into adulthood among the Ashwing clan. The other young dragons had completed their hunts without hesitation. They had returned with blood on their claws and pride in their eyes. Ruvik had hesitated. The parent creature had looked at him with such desperate intelligence. Not the blank stare of an animal. This was a thinking being, a person. The young ones behind it made sounds that were clearly language, clearly fear, clearly love. He had let them run. The council had called it weakness. Corruption, a flaw in his spirit that would spread like disease if left unpunished. Dragons were predators. Dragons were conquerors. Dragons ruled 73 worlds because they understood a simple truth. Strength was everything. Mercy was extinction. Elder Caver had spoken the sentence himself. You will die on Talum, 5, alone and forgotten. Perhaps hunger will teach you what we cannot. Strength demands sacrifice. The weak exist to feed the strong. Ruvik dragged himself upright. His left wing hung at a wrong angle. Something inside his chest felt loose. He looked around at his new prison. Talum, 5 was a moon, tidally locked to a massive gas giant that filled half the sky. The horizon curved sharply, marked by jagged rocks and pools of water so toxic they steamed in the thin atmosphere. No plants, no animals, no food. Dragons could survive a long time without eating. Their bodies were efficient, their metabolism slow when needed. But not forever. He had maybe 40 days before his own body consumed itself. 40 days to think about his crime. 40 days to die slowly. He began to walk, each step sending jolts of pain through his body. What else was there to do? Lie down and wait? That felt too much like surrender. Even now, even exiled and broken, something in him refused to simply give up. The landscape repeated itself endlessly. Red sand, black rocks, toxic pools that bubbled and hissed. In the distance, he saw something white against the rust. Bones, large bones. Another exile from years or decades past. The skeleton was half buried, its skull facing away from the gas giant, toward the dark side of the moon. As if in death, it had tried to escape. Ruvik looked away. He would not end like that. Somehow, though he had no idea how, he found a cave as the gas giant moved slightly in the sky. Talum, 5 rotated so slowly that day and night lasted weeks. The cave would provide shelter from the radiation when the giant's reflection grew too intense. Inside, the walls sparkled with crystal formations. Beautiful and utterly useless, Ruvik curled up, his damaged wing tucked awkwardly against his body. Exhaustion pulled at him. He had used too much energy walking. His body needed rest to heal, but healing required fuel, and there was no fuel here. Sleep came in fragments, filled with dreams of the hunt. But in his dreams, the roles reversed. He was the small creature in the burrow. Something vast and terrible looked down at him with cold eyes. He tried to speak, to explain that he was intelligent, that he mattered, that he deserved to live. But the vast thing did not care. It opened its mouth, and fire consumed everything that he woke gasping. The cave was darker now. Outside, the eternal day continued. He dragged himself to the cave entrance and looked up at the amber sky. I was right, he said aloud. His voice echoed strangely in the thin air. They were people. They deserved to live. I was right. Saying it did not change anything. did not bring food, did not heal his wing, did not summon rescue. But it felt important to say, to declare it to the empty moon and the uncaring sky. He had broken the law of his people. He had chosen mercy over strength. And given the choice again, even knowing it would lead here, he would do the same. That realization should have brought peace. Instead, it brought questions. How many worlds had dragons conquered? How many thinking species had they subjugated or destroyed? The council called it natural order. The strong ruled. The weak served. But what if that was wrong? What if mercy was not weakness, but something else entirely? Ruvik had no answers. Only questions and 40 days of slow starvation to contemplate them. He returned to the cave and slept again. When he woke, it would be day 3, then 4, then 5. He would count them all, each one bringing him closer to the end. But at least he would die knowing he had chosen compassion. In a galaxy ruled by strength, perhaps that was its own kind of victory. The cave walls sparkled in the dim light. Ruvik closed his eyes and dreamed of small creatures running to safety, alive because one dragon had chosen differently. 15 days had passed since exile. Ruvik's body had begun the slow process of consuming itself. His scales had lost their shine. His movements were careful, measured, conserving every bit of energy. The broken wing had set poorly, would never fly properly again. Not that it mattered on a moon with no escape. He had explored most of the habitable zone, the narrow band where temperature and radiation were survivable. Nothing, just rocks and sand and the bones of the dead. He had tried eating the toxic plants that grew near some pools, but they had made him violently sick. His body had expelled them, wasting precious energy. Now he sat at the edge of a cliff, watching the gas giant slowly turn. Its storms were beautiful, swirls of cream and orange large enough to swallow whole planets. Somewhere beyond it, the Dragon Empire continued its endless expansion. New worlds conquered, new species subjugated, and nobody would even remember the young dragon who had questioned it all. That was when he saw it dot a light in the sky. Moving, descending, Ruvik stood so fast his vision blurred. Was it the council? Had they changed their minds? No, the shape was wrong. Dragon ships were elegant, curved, designed to inspire fear and awe. This thing looked like someone had welded metal plates together and hoped for the best. It had asymmetrical engines, visible seams, and it descended with all the grace of a falling rock. But it descended in control. Someone was piloting it. Ruvik's heart, slow from starvation, suddenly hammered in his chest. This was no dragon ship, no species he recognized. In all the databases he had studied, all the conquered worlds and subject races, nothing looked like this crude, patched-together vessel. Unknown meant dangerous. Unknown meant threat. That was dragon law. But to Ruvik, starving and alone, unknown meant hope. The ship landed 3 kilometers away, near a mineral deposit. Ruvik watched from behind a rock formation as a hatch opened and figures emerged. They were small, maybe 2 meters tall, walking upright on 2 legs. They wore suits that covered their bodies completely, likely protection against the thin atmosphere and radiation. 4 of them. They moved with purpose, setting up equipment, collecting samples. Their movements were coordinated, but not military. Scientists, maybe? Explorers? Ruvik had learned to read body language from studying prey species. These beings showed curiosity, not aggression. He watched for hours as they established a small camp. They worked together, helping each other with tasks, communicating with sounds and gestures. Dragons rarely cooperated like this. Each dragon was expected to be self-sufficient. Needing help was weakness. But these creatures seemed to view cooperation as normal. When one struggled with a heavy container, 2 others immediately assisted. When another nearly tripped, a companion steadied them. They were not weak for helping each other. They were efficient. As the gas giant's light dimmed slightly, marking the approach of the long night, the creatures entered a structure they had erected. Ruvik could see light inside, warm and inviting. More importantly, he could smell something his body recognized instantly. Food. His stomach, which had been dormant for days, suddenly woke with painful intensity. Ruvik had been managing hunger through discipline and meditation, dragon techniques for enduring hardship. But the smell of cooked food shattered that control. His body screamed at him to move, to take, to survive, that he approached slowly, staying low despite his size. Stealth was difficult when you were 12 meters long and covered in bronze scales, but desperation made him try. He got within 50 meters before his body betrayed him. The weakness, the broken wing, the days of starvation. He stumbled, fell. The impact shook the ground. Inside the structure, the lights changed. The creatures emerged, and they were armed. Small weapons, but weapons nonetheless. Ruvik tried to stand, to look less threatening, but his body would not cooperate. He managed to lift his head and saw them clearly for the first time. Their suits had transparent sections showing their faces. Skin with varying shades, no scales. Eyes that moved with quick intelligence. Mouths that opened in what might have been fear or shock. They pointed their weapons at him, but did not fire. "Please," Ruvik tried to say, but the word came out in dragon tongue, a series of growls and hisses. They would not understand. How could they? One of them stepped forward, the others calling out in what sounded like warning. This one was smaller than the others, with a face that showed less fear and more fascination. It said something in its own language, sounds that were complex and fluid. Then it did something that Ruvik had not expected. It holstered its weapon and picked up a container from near the structure. Slowly, carefully it approached. The others were clearly agitated, their voices rising, but the small one kept coming. It stopped 5 meters away and placed the container on the ground. Then it stepped back and made a gesture that was somehow universally clear. "Eat." Ruvik stared at the container, then at the creature, then back at the container. This made no sense. He was a predator, a dragon, a member of the species that had conquered their world, or would someday. Why would they help him? But his body did not care about questions. It cared about survival. Ruvik dragged himself forward and opened the container with one claw. Inside was food, processed and cooked, unlike anything he had eaten before. He consumed it desperately, his body rejoicing at the fuel. When he finished, he looked up at the creatures. They had not run. They stood watching, their weapons lowered. The small one said something else, its tone questioning. Ruvik tried to respond, to thank them, but again only dragon sounds emerged. The small one tilted its head, then turned to the others. They talked among themselves, gesturing at Ruvik, at their camp, at their ship. Finally, they seemed to reach some agreement. They brought more food. 3 days had passed since the impossible creatures had started feeding him. Ruvik remained near their camp, close enough to see them, but far enough to not seem threatening. They had settled into a routine. They worked during the day, collecting rocks and running tests on equipment. At mealtimes, they brought food to a spot between their camp and where he rested. Ruvik had started to recognize them as individuals. The small one who had first approached was clearly the most curious. It spent hours watching him, making notes on a handheld device. Another was taller, moving with authority, likely their leader. A third was always working on equipment, fixing and adjusting things. The fourth moved with grace, often looking up at the sky as if planning their next flight. They were people, not animals, not subjects. People with roles and relationships and purpose. Just like dragons, except they chose cooperation over domination. On the 4th day, the curious one approached with something new. Not food, but a small device that it placed on the ground between them. It touched the device, and sounds came out. The creature's own language, but slower, clearer. Then it pointed at itself and said a sound. Kneel. A name. It was giving Ruvik its name. Ruvik understood the gesture. Names were important. Names meant recognition, respect, identity. He searched his mind for how to respond. Dragons had complex names with clicks and resonances that these creatures likely could not produce. But they had given him food and shelter when his own kind had left him to die. They deserved his name in return. He pointed a claw at himself and made the closest approximation he could. Ruvik. Neil's face transformed, eyes widening, mouth spreading in what Ruvik was learning meant pleasure or excitement. It repeated the name. Ruvik. Then it pointed at itself again. Neil. It pointed at the others, giving more names. Anne, Hero, Lena, Anne, the leader. Hero, the equipment specialist. Lena, the pilot. And Neil, the curious one. Not humans, not creatures, people with names. Over the following days, Neil worked with the device, teaching Ruvik their language and learning his. The device was clever, analyzing patterns and building a translation program. Progress was slow but steady. Single words at first. Eat, water, sky, ship. Then simple phrases. Are you hurt? Where are you from? Why are you here? That last question required complex explanation. Ruvik struggled to convey the concept of exile, of punishment, of his crime. When he finally managed to explain that he had been condemned for showing mercy, for sparing prey species during a hunt, the humans went silent and spoke first, her words coming through the translator with slight delay. They punished you for not killing? Yes. Dragons conquer. Dragons dominate. Mercy is weakness. I showed weakness. I am exile. Neil made a sound that the translator could not interpret. His face showed distress. That's horrible. Those beings you spare, they were sentient. Ruvik had not heard that word before. Sentient. Thinking. Aware. People. Yes, they were people. I saw this. But dragon law says all non-dragons exist to serve or die. I cannot kill them. So I am here. The humans exchanged looks that Ruvik was learning to read. Shock, sadness, anger. Not at him, at his people, at the philosophy that had condemned him. Hero spoke next. How long can you survive here? Without us? Ruvik considered lying. Pride suggested he should claim strength. But these humans had saved his life. They deserved truth. I had maybe 40 days when you arrived. I had used 15. You came at day 15. You saved me. And if we leave? And asked. Her tone was not cruel, but practical. They had their own mission, their own purpose. ED. Silence fell over the group. They spoke among themselves, their language too fast and complex for the translator to catch everything. But Ruvik heard emotion in their voices. They were debating. Some wanted to help. Others worried about resources, about safety, about complications, and seemed torn between duty and compassion. Finally, Lena spoke. We can't just leave him here. Look at him. He's a person. He was punished for doing the right thing. If we abandon him, we're no better than his own people. We're a survey team, and said, not equipped for this, not authorized for first contact with sentient species. Taking him could cause diplomatic incidents. With who? Neil argued. A species that exiles their own for showing mercy? I don't think we need their approval. And looked at Ruvik, really looked at him. Her eyes were hard but not cold, making difficult choices, weighing options. Finally, she sighed. If you come with us, it changes everything. Earth will want to study you, learn about your people, about the species you've conquered. It won't be comfortable. You'll be alone among aliens. Ruvik made a sound that approximated laughter. I'm already alone among aliens. But you feed me. You speak with me. You treat me as person, not as threat or subject. My own clan did not give me this respect. I have been with you 4 days. In that time, I have learned more about mercy and compassion than in 20 cycles among dragons. Cycles? Hero asked. Years, in your measure. I am young, barely adult, but old enough to be judged, old enough to see truth. Dragons teach that strength is everything. But you are individually weak, yes? Soft skin, no clothes, no fire. Yet you reach stars. You survive. How? Neil smiled. We have each other. Humans learned long ago that cooperation is stronger than any individual. We survive together or not all. The phrase hit Ruvik like a physical blow. Together or not at all. The opposite of everything he had been taught. Dragons survived alone, through individual strength. But these humans had built ships, crossed space, explored dead worlds, all through working together. Their weakness was their strength, and made her decision. We'll take you to Earth. Can't promise what happens after that. But we won't leave you here to die. Relief flooded through Ruvik, so intense it hurt. Thank you. These words are not enough. But thank you. Neil placed a hand on the translator device. You chose mercy when it cost you everything. That makes you better than most. Welcome to the team, Ruvik. The translator had improved significantly over the past week. Ruvik could now hold actual conversations with the humans, though some concepts still required explanation. They had taught him about Earth, about human history, about the long climb from primitive tribes to space-faring civilization. Every story contradicted what he knew about survival. Humans had been prey animals once, hunted by larger, stronger creatures. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. By dragon logic, they should have gone extinct. Instead, they had thrived through cooperation and tool use. They had not conquered Earth through strength, but through adaptability and community. Now Ruvik sat with them around a heating unit as the long night approached. The gas giant above was entering eclipse, and temperatures would drop dangerously, and had insisted he stay close to their camp for warmth. Tell us about dragon culture, Neil said, his endless curiosity driving another question. Not the conquest part. What do dragons create? Art? Music? Stories? Ruvik considered this. We had those things long ago. Ancient dragons were philosophers and poets. But after the Great War, everything changed. Survival became priority. Strength became virtue. Art was seen as distraction from power. What was the Great War? Lena asked. Before my time. Before my grandparents' time. Dragons fought among ourselves, clan against clan, over territory and resources. Millions died. Entire clans were destroyed. When it ended, the surviving elders created new laws. Never fight each other. Channel aggression outward. Conquer other species. Unity through dominance. And frowned. They solved internal conflict by attacking outsiders. Yes, and it worked by their measure. Dragons have not fought each other for 3,000 cycles. We expanded instead, taking 73 worlds. The clans are united. But we lost something. We forgot how to be more than conquerors. Hero adjusted the heating unit. Do you think your people could change? If they saw another way. So maybe. I am not the first to question. But questioning is punished. Dissent is eliminated. The system perpetuates itself. Ruvik paused. What confuses me is how humans avoided this. You had wars, yes? You fought each other. Too many wars, and said quietly. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, climate collapse. We came close to extinction at least 3 times in our history. But you survived. How? Neil leaned forward. We learned. Not all at once, and not perfectly. But each near disaster taught us something. We formed global governments, shared resources, focused on common goals. We realized that our differences were smaller than our similarities. When we finally reached the stars, we went as one species, not competing nations. You chose cooperation even when competition was easier. Competition almost killed us, Lena said. Cooperation saved us. It wasn't easy. It took centuries. But the alternative was extinction. Ruvik absorbed this. Dragons had taken the opposite path. They had chosen unity through conquest rather than cooperation. And it had worked in a way. Dragons were powerful. Dragons ruled. But what cost? How many species had they destroyed? How many potential friends had they made into enemies or slaves? I want to show you something, Ruvik said. He touched his chest, where dragons kept their ancestral memories. Not quite genetic memory, but close. Cultural knowledge passed down through generations. He accessed the oldest verses, the ones rarely taught anymore, that he recited them in dragon tongue first, then translated. The sky is vast enough for all wings. The hunt is rich enough for all mouths. Strength shared is strength multiplied. Alone, we are fire. Together, we are the sun. Silence. Then Neil spoke softly. That's beautiful. When was that written? Before the Great War. We have thousands of verses like this. About cooperation, about diversity of life, about finding joy in discovery rather than conquest. Young dragons are not taught these anymore. They are considered corrupting influences. But you learn them and observed. My mother taught me, in secret. She was old enough to remember when such things were valued. She died when I was young. I think the council disapproved of her teachings. I think that is why I hesitated during the hunt. Her words were still in my mind. The humans exchanged glances. Hero spoke first. Ruvik, what if there are others like you? Other dragons who question. There must be, but they hide it. Speaking against the council is death. Showing mercy is exile. The system ensures silence. What about the species you've conquered? Lena asked. Do they resist? Some tried. Most were crushed. A few survive as subjects, obeying dragon law. They have no choice. Dragon military power is absolute. And stood and paced, her commander instincts working through a problem. The galaxy has a dragon-shaped problem. An empire built on domination, holding dozens of species in servitude and eliminating internal dissent. That's not sustainable. It has sustained for 3,000 cycles, Ruvik pointed out. All empires fall eventually, and said. The question is whether they fall catastrophically or transform peacefully. You think dragons could transform? Ruvik's doubt was clear. I think one already has. And looked directly at him. You chose differently. That means choice is possible. If one dragon can change, others can too. The question is how to reach them. Neil's eyes lit up with the expression Ruvik had learned meant an idea forming. What if we tried? Not with military force. With information. Show conquered species that resistance is possible. Show questioning dragons that they're not alone. Plant seeds of change. That is incredibly dangerous, Ruvik said. The council would view it as active war. They already view unknown species as threats, Lena countered. We're not exactly safe whether we try to help or not. Ruvik felt something unfamiliar. Hope mixed with fear. Could it work? Could the Dragon Empire actually change? Or would trying simply result in more death, more suffering? If we did this, he said carefully, if we tried to undermine the Council's power, I would need help. I know the systems, the worlds, the way dragons think, but I would be betraying my entire species. You'd be saving them, Neil said, from themselves, and sat back down. We're not deciding this tonight. First, we get off this rock. Get you to Earth. Let people smarter than us figure out policy. But Ruvik, I want you to think about something. Your people punished you for mercy. These conquered species suffer under dragon rule. And somewhere in the Empire, other dragons are hiding their doubts, afraid to speak. You have a chance to change that. To show another way is possible. Ruvik looked at each of them. For humans who had saved a dragon for no reason, except it was right. Who had taught him that weakness could be strength, that cooperation could triumph over domination. Who now suggested using those lessons to challenge an empire. I will think about it, he said, and whatever we decide, I am grateful. You gave me life when my own people chose death. That debt cannot be repaid, but I will try. And smiled, tired but genuine. Get some rest. Tomorrow we pack up and head home. Long journey ahead. As the humans returned to their shelter, Ruvik remained by the heating unit, watching the eclipsed giant above. Somewhere beyond it, the Empire continued its reign. But here, on a dead moon that should have been his grave, something new had been born. A friendship between species. A possibility of change. Hope was a fragile thing. But perhaps fragile things could survive after all. Packing the camp should have taken one day. They were on day 2 when the sensor screamed. Hero looked up from his equipment, face going pale. We have incoming. 3 signatures, matching dragon energy profiles. Ruvik's hearts froze. Plural, because dragons had 2, and both stopped beating for a moment. The Ashwing clan. They found your ship, and was already moving, barking orders. Lena, get the ship ready for emergency launch. Neil, secure the samples. Hero, weapons systems online. Wait. Ruvik stepped forward. Your ship cannot outrun dragon fighters, and your weapons are designed for defense, not combat. You will lose direct engagement. So what do we do? And demanded. Let me speak to them. Maybe I can negotiate. They exiled you, Lena said, running toward the ship. Why would they negotiate? Because seeing me alive will confuse them. Because they know dragon anatomy and might hesitate to kill me quickly. Because it might buy you time to escape. And studied him. You're asking us to leave you behind. I am asking you to survive. You show me mercy. Let me return it. Before anyone could argue further, three shapes descended from the amber sky. Dragon fighters, sleek and deadly. They landed in formation, and three dragons emerged. Ruvik recognized them immediately. Shera, a huntress known for her precision and cruelty. Torix, young and eager to prove himself. And Kaver, the council enforcer who had pronounced Ruvik's exile. Seeing Kaver again made old shame burn fresh. Impossible, Kaver said, his voice carrying easily across the distance. You should be dead. Ruvik stepped forward, placing himself between the ash-winged dragons and the humans. I survived. These beings helped me. Shera's eyes fixed on the humans with predatory interest. Unknown species. Small. Weak. They will make interesting subjects once we conquer their world. They are under my protection, Ruvik said, and even he was surprised by the firmness in his voice. Torix laughed. Your protection? You are exile. You have no authority, no clan, no rights. I have the right of any living being to defend those who showed me kindness. Kaver moved closer, and Ruvik could see calculation in his eyes. The council detected this ship. Unknown design, unknown origin. We came to investigate and found you, alive and consorting with aliens. This is beyond exile, Ruvik. This is treason. Treason against what? A clan that left me to die? A council that punishes mercy? Careful, Kaver warned. Your words condemn you further. His voice came from behind, translator active. We are humans from Earth. We came here on scientific mission. We found Ruvik dying and chose to help him. We mean no threat to your people. Shera's laugh was harsh. You have no choice in threat. You are weak. We are strong. This is natural order. You will submit, or you will be destroyed. Natural order? Neil stepped forward despite and hissed warning. You call domination natural? You call conquest order? That's just tyranny with fancy words. Torix moved aggressively. Watch your tone, creature. You address your superiors. No. Ruvik's voice cracked like thunder. They address their equals. These humans crossed stars through cooperation. They built civilizations through compassion. They saved someone they had no obligation to save. They are not weak. They are what we could have been. Silence. Then Kaver spoke, voice cold. You are corrupted, Ruvik. Contact with aliens has poisoned your mind. This is why exile exists. This is why the weak must be cold. I'm not weak, Ruvik said. I'm awake. You call it corruption. I call enlightenment. Shera's patience ended. Enough talk. Kill the exile. Capture the aliens. The council will want to study them before deciding their world's fate. They moved as one, dragon reflexes faster than thought. But Ruvik had been expecting it. He lunged forward, intercepting Shera mid-leap. They collided in a tangle of scales and claws. Ruvik's injured wing screamed in pain, but he ignored it. Run, he roared at the humans. Get to your ship, and hesitated one fatal second, then made the choice. Move, now. Torix tried to pursue them, but Ruvik's tail swept his legs. The young dragon fell, and Ruvik was on him, pinning him down. Do not make me hurt you, please. But Kaver was there, massive and experienced. His claws raked Ruvik's side, drawing blood. You choose them over us? Over your own species? Ruvik rolled away, putting distance between Kaver and the humans. I choose mercy over cruelty. I choose growth over stagnation. I choose the future over the past. Shera recovered and breathed fire. Not at Ruvik, but toward the humans. And threw herself sideways, and the flames missed by meters. The human ship's weapons activated, energy bolts forcing Shera back. You see, Ruvik shouted. They defend themselves. They are not prey. They are people. Kaver's expression shifted. Not agreement, but something else. Uncertainty? Even if that were true, it changes nothing. The council's law is absolute. Then the council's law is wrong. The words hung in the air. To speak against the council was death. To declare their law wrong was unthinkable. Even Kaver seemed shocked. Torix recovered and struck at Ruvik from behind, young and stupid and following orders. His claws found Ruvik's damaged wing, tearing through already injured membrane. Pain exploded through Ruvik's body. The human ship fired again, not at the dragons, but at the ground between them. Dirt and rock exploded upward, creating cover. Hero's voice came through speakers. Ruvik, get to the ship. Now. But Kaver was between Ruvik and safety. The old enforcer's face showed something like regret. You could have been great. Your mother was gifted. You inherited her intelligence, but also her weakness. My mother was wise, Ruvik gasped through pain. She taught me the old ways. Before the clans forgot what it meant to be more than conquerors. The old ways led to the Great War. Led to destruction. We changed to survive. You changed to dominate. There is difference. Shara and Torix were recovering, circling. 3 against 1. Ruvik was already injured, weakened. He could not win this fight, but he could buy time. Then Anne's voice cut through. Kaver, if you kill him, you'll have to kill us too. And our people will come looking. They will find your empire, and they will remember you murdered beings who showed mercy. Kaver's eyes narrowed. You threatened me? I promise you. Humans remember. We remember injustice. We remember cruelty. And we have very long memories. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Hero's systems detected more ships. Distant but approaching. Reinforcements. Either human or dragon. It did not matter. The situation was escalating. Kaver made his decision. We leave, but not because of threats. Because the council must know about humans. About this corruption. They will decide response. He turned to Ruvik. You are dead to us. If we meet again, I will not hesitate. I know, Ruvik said, but hesitation was never your weakness. It was always your strength denied. The 3 dragons lifted off, leaving Ruvik bleeding on red sand once more. And Neil rushed to him, human hands impossibly gentle on his wounds. Can you move? And asked. Have to, Ruvik managed. They will return with more. With fleet. Together, they got him to the ship. It was too small, really, never designed for dragon passengers. But they made it work. They always made it work. As the ship lifted off, Ruvik watched Talum, 5 shrink below. His prison, his salvation, his past, ahead, uncertain future. But facing it with friends rather than alone, perhaps that was enough. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. The human ship was never designed for trips this long, with 5 passengers instead of 4. They had to ration everything. Food, water, air, space. Ruvik spent most of the journey in the cargo bay, which they had modified for him. It was cramped and uncomfortable, but he had endured worse. His wounds healed slowly. Dragons were resilient, but without proper rest and nutrition, even resilience had limits. The humans took turns keeping him company. Neil taught him more about Earth culture. Lena shared stories of human exploration, of the first tentative steps into space, the failures and triumphs. Hero showed him how various systems worked, fascinated by Ruvik's quick understanding of engineering principles, and discussed strategy and politics, preparing him for what would come. Earth will be complicated, she warned during one conversation. Some will see you as opportunity. Scientific discovery, potential ally, bridge to Dragon Empire. Others will see threat. Enemy soldier, possible spy, dangerous predator. I understand, Ruvik said. I'm all those things and none of them. What do you want to be? The question surprised him. Want. Dragons were taught to take, not want. To conquer, not choose. But, and was asking about preference, about self-determination. I want to be useful, he said finally. I want the pain I cause through inaction to have meaning. I want conquered species to be free. I want dragons like me to know they are not alone in their doubts. That's a big want, and said, world-changing want. Is it possible? Don't know. But humans have changed our world several times. Usually through people who wanted something different badly enough to fight for it. On day 19, they detected the Dragon Fleet. Dozens of ships spreading out through surrounding systems. Searching, Kaver had reported back, and the Council was taking the human threat seriously. Can they track us? Lena asked, hands tied on the controls. Depends on their technology, Hero said, checking sensors. Our ship is small, relatively low emissions. But if they scan this sector thoroughly, they might find us. They ran dark for 2 days, drifting with minimal power to avoid detection. Ruvik barely breathed, as if his presence alone might give them away. The fleet passed within a light year, close enough to be terrifying, far enough to miss one small ship hiding in the dark. When they finally crossed into human-controlled space, the relief was physical. They had made it. Against odds, against dragon pursuit, against simple probability. They had made it home. Earth traffic control was less welcoming than Ruvik had hoped. This is Survey Ship Horizon, requesting approach clearance. Horizon, you are 3 months early and off course. Explain, and took a breath. Control, we have a unique situation. First contact with sentient species. We need immediate governmental liaison and scientific team. Long pause. Then, Horizon, please stand by. Do not, repeat, do not approach Earth until cleared. Military escort is launching. 6 ships surrounded them within the hour. Sleek fighters, weapons armed. Taking no chances. Ruvik understood. If positions were reversed, if dragons encountered unknown aliens claiming friendship, they would simply attack. Humans at least were cautious rather than aggressive. The escort guided them to a space station rather than Earth proper. More caution. Keep the unknown threat away from the homeworld until verified. Wise, they docked and went first to meet the authorities. Ruvik heard raised voices, urgent questions, disbelief. Then silence. Then, and returned. They want to see you. Are you ready? No, Ruvik admitted. But when has that stopped anything? The station's corridors were too small for him. He had to duck, fold his wings tight, move carefully. Humans pressed against walls to let him pass, their faces showing fear and wonder in equal measure. Children pointed. Adults stared. Everyone whispered. The meeting room had been designed for human scale. They had tried to accommodate him, but it was still awkward. Ruvik settled as comfortably as possible while a dozen officials filled the other side. Military uniforms, scientific robes, political suits, all studying him with varying degrees of suspicion and fascination. One woman stepped forward, older, carrying authority naturally. I am Secretary Chun, United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Welcome to human space. We have questions. I will answer what I can, Ruvik said. The translator worked perfectly now, his voice clear. Are you a threat to Earth? No. My own people exiled me. I have no loyalty to Dragon Empire. Only to those who show me mercy when mercy was not deserved. Tell us about your empire. Military strength. Technology. Conquered worlds. For hours, Ruvik answered. He held nothing back. Fleet compositions. Conquered species locations. Dragon philosophy and council structure. Everything he knew, he shared. If he was betraying his people, he would do it thoroughly. Finally, Secretary Chen leaned back. Why? Why tell us everything? Your information could be used against dragons. It should be, Ruvik said. My people are wrong. Our empire is built on suffering. Someone must stop it. If not from within, then from without. A military officer spoke up. You are proposing war? I am proposing change. War might be necessary, but there are other ways. Information campaigns for conquered species. Support for dragon dissidents. Demonstrations that cooperation works better than domination. Humans reach the stars through these methods. Perhaps they can teach the galaxy the same lessons. Secretary Chun and the officials exchanged glances. Finally, she spoke again. What do you want from us? Help. Not for me. For those still suffering under dragon rule. For the questioning dragons afraid to speak. For the possibility that an empire built on cruelty might become something better. More discussion, arguments, debates. Ruvik waited, patient. He had learned patience from starvation, from exile, from watching humans work together through disagreement. Finally, decision. Secretary Chan stood. We cannot promise military intervention, but we can offer support for peaceful resistance. Intelligence sharing with conquered species. Safe harbor for dragon refugees. And a place for you, if you want it. As what? Prisoner? Research subject. As consultant. Advisor. Bridge between species. You would work with our xenology teams, help us understand dragons and how to communicate with them. Help us help others. Neil appeared at the doorway, having waited outside. He smiled at Ruvik. You would also get a place to stay, food, medical care, and friends if you want them. Want. That word again. What did Ruvik want? He looked at Neil, and standing beside him, at Lena and Hero joining them. For humans who had saved a dragon for no reason except it was right. Yes, Ruvik said, I want that. The officials seemed surprised by how simple his answer was. But it was simple. After a lifetime of dragon complexity, of dominance hierarchies, and strength through cruelty, choosing kindness was beautifully simple. Secretary Chan extended her hand, palm up, a human gesture of peace. Ruvik carefully placed one claw on her palm, as gentle as he could manage. Welcome to Earth, Ruvik. Let's see what we can build together. Outside the station, Earth turned below them, blue and green and alive. Somewhere beyond, the Dragon Empire continued its conquest. But here, in this moment, one exile had found home. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was how change began. Not with grand gestures or massive battles, but with small moments of connection. With mercy offered and accepted. With the simple choice to see others not as prey or subjects, but as people. Ruvik looked at his new friends and allowed himself something he had not felt since before exile. Hope. Real, solid hope. The future was uncertain. The Dragon Empire would not change easily. There would be struggle and setback and pain. But there would also be this. Friendship across species. Cooperation instead of conquest. The knowledge that showing mercy was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. And in a galaxy that had forgotten such things, perhaps that was revolutionary enough.